Welcome to Liberated Living, where we unleash the power within to create extraordinary lives in a more just and vibrant world. I'm Rebeccah Bennett, founder of InPower Institute, and each week we'll explore the places where our liberation, healing, and spiritual growth meet. Welcome, everybody. Today, our focus is on the masks that we wear. Now, you'll recall in our last episode that we really talked about living our liberated selves. We talked about these selves as our essential nature, as our personal superheroes that are always working on our behalf to keep us whole and to keep us well, whatever the circumstances of our lives, whatever the conditions that we are currently experiencing. Now, if our liberated selves are like our personal superheroes, like a General Okoye in Black Panther or like a Superman, then I want you to think about your limited, conditioned self, right, as your Clark Kent. This is the self that you usually show up as in order to belong or in order to fit in. It's not necessarily the most powerful aspects of you, but the you that is trying to accommodate, the you that is often having to cloak itself in order to be fully embraced. So think about it this way. Clark Kent is like our masked self. It's the you and the me that conforms in order to fit in order to belong, in order to be accepted. It's who you've had to be, not who you really are. And that's a powerful distinction. Who you've had to be, but not who you really are. Now, I want you to know that our Clark Kent serves a purpose. The purpose of the masks that we wear is to keep us safe from hurt, harm, or danger. The purpose of the masks that we wear is to help us belong in a society and in a context that often does not love us, that often does not bow to the deep power within us, but seeks rather to exploit it or to manipulate it or to use it to its own ends. The challenge is that over time, if we keep showing up as Clark Kent, we might really forget that who and what we are is Superman. Is a super being, is a liberated being. And so we gotta be careful about these masks because while they may be useful, they are also constraining, confining, and they keep us small. One of my favorite poets of all times is Paul Laurence Dunbar. For those of you who don't know him, he's an African-American poet of the 19th century who wrote beautifully in Black vernacular or dialect. He's most famous for those poems, but he also wrote poems in standard English. And one of those poems is called We Wear the Mask. It is one of my absolute favorites. If you're not familiar with it, here it goes. I'll just share a simple stanza. It says, we wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile. This poem, We Wear the Mask, captures the reality of so many Black people and other endangered people on this planet. Countless among us who have had to wear a mask to at some point conceal our thoughts, mute our truths, temper our actions so that we would not be violated and victimized. And the unfortunate truth is that even with our masks, we have not been safe. I just let us sit with that for a moment. If part of the purpose of the mask is to keep us safe and yet we are still not safe, and we are small, then we have to learn to do something else. We have to have the courage and the conviction to be ourselves. And this is not an easy thing, right? It's not an easy thing because there are a whole lot of powers that are colluding to keep us in our place, that prefer our masks to our true faces. And yet we have to choose our true faces. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment as you get clear about what really is a mask. Or at least, what do I mean by it? It is simply this. It is a false self that imprisons us in a set of painful dynamics. It is a habitual way of thinking, of feeling, of talking, of responding. Habitual, because we do it again and 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 again. Right? We don't just do it once. We do it many times. We don this mask so that we can be safe, so that we can fit in, so that we can belong, so that we won't be victimized or violated. Right? We wear these masks. And yet, while it makes sense for us to at some point be accommodating to our circumstances, right? It's just smart to be agile or deflect or be flexible. On the other hand, if what being flexible does is requires us to forfeit our authenticity, it requires us to repeatedly deny our truths, then something deeper is happening. There's some greater injury on the soul that is taking place. And so what we want to do is we want to put the mask down so that we don't begin to mistake it for our true face, so that we don't get confused about who and what lies at our core. Now, how might we do that? How might we learn to let go of these masks? Because the truth of the matter is that you and I might wear these masks long after they cease being useful, right? Usually they're a response to a hurt, to something traumatic or difficult that happened to us, where we had to contort ourselves, distort ourselves, disable ourselves. And yet once that situation is gone by, we're still stuck with this mask, this outworn habit, this outworn pattern and way of being. How might we see what's really at the heart of that so that we can choose to do something different? I would suggest that we should consider at least 5 questions. The first is this: what habitual ways of speaking or thinking or acting drain us of our energy and our power? You know what these are, because you don't feel good when you do it. What wounds lie at the center of our pretense? We didn't just pretend because it felt good. No. We pretended because there was a hurt. What are those wounds? Let's get familiar with that. Let's bring those wounds from our subconscious, from the background to the foreground of our attention. Because if we can see it, if we can feel it, then ladies and gentlemen, we can heal it. What patterns do we need to confront and transform so that our true selves can emerge? What truth are we covering up, or truths are we covering up that want to be more fully revealed and more fully expressed? And how can we honor these truths? How can we live them out loud in ways that heal us and in ways that help to heal and restore others to wholeness? These are questions that help us get woke, y'all. That help us see through the confusion, the fog, the pretense, the pattern that no longer serves us. Now, I'm not just telling you what I read about, I'm telling you what I've lived. I've worn many masks in this life and continue to do so. So I'm still a work in progress. But one of the ones that I donned early in life was the one that I call Elastigirl. It was the me that would sacrifice herself in order to rescue and save others. Now, understand, I have a helping spirit at my core. Right? I am one who wants to serve and to help others grow. And yet, it's not just that I wanted to serve. You see, the pain is that my service required me to sacrifice myself again and again and again and again, to offer myself up on the altar of life. And that does not serve me well. Where did it come from? In my formative years, in my childhood, there was addiction in my household. And in order to help save those who I loved, I bent myself every way I possibly could. And long after that addiction gave way to recovery, I was still trapped in the same patterns of rescuing and saving that didn't serve me well, in situations that didn't require it, where I was robbing other people of their opportunity to do their own work, to develop their own musculature, to carry themselves in the world, and where I was feeling resentful and used in the process. Right? Mask didn't serve me well. My true face is service, but the mask was the martyr. Now, I give this to you just as a way of helping you consider what your mask might be. By naming and claiming our masks, we can call out our pretense and move the distress from our shadows into the light so that we can finally make some choices around it. So I want to invite you to be conscious, not conditioned. Be conscious, not conditioned. When we can do that, we will find that our truth is waiting for us. Until next time, God bless.